evening. This is the open meeting of Sherborn School Committee, and it is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order from March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. We will be doing this as a remote meeting, and per that order, the governor has suspended the requirement of the open meeting law, and all meetings can be publicly accessible via Zoom. And this meeting was posted on the Dover Sherborn website and with a video conference Zoom number, and it identified that everyone may join who was interested. Please note that this is being recorded and that the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and that with that screen sharing, everything is captured, so anything could be broadcast during the recording. This is also recorded so that it can be shown later on public access TV or via another device. So we also have community comments as usual. They're an opportunity for the members of the community to be heard. We respectfully request that you make your comments brief, 2 to 3 minutes, and move the discussion forward by adding any new information, and try to avoid repeating points that have already been made, just so everyone could be heard. They're an opportunity for us to listen to members of the community. I know a lot of times people want a dialogue. Unfortunately, that's not the forum for it. We do encourage community comments though, so that we can hear your concerns and so that we know what they are going forward. So please feel free to bring any comments forward to us, but just understand that if you're waiting for a response, as some people are, that's not the point where we do that. But we do take those into consideration, and then it does give us something to consider with your concerns. So we appreciate anyone who's taken the time to participate in this very important forum and process, and we encourage you also, if you have any questions or concerns, to please reach out to your school committee members at any time, and they will be happy to pass along anything to Dr. Keough and other members of the committee. So with that being said, we're going to have some meeting etiquette. I'll start with the community comments portion, and then I will introduce each item on the agenda after that, and we will have the person presenting that item. And once that is finished, I will take questions from the school committee members. And if you'd like to speak, you can either do the icon where you kind of raise your hand, or you can just physically raise your hand and I will see you. And then when we do voting, as we always do, I'll ask you to take yourself off of mute, and we'll proceed that way. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting this evening. The time is flying. It is, actually September the 22nd, which who knew? It seems long and short all at the same time. So welcome to the September 22nd meeting. And do I have any community comments at this time? Luckily, we don't have a lot of screens, so Dawn, I can see everybody. All right, not seeing any. I didn't see any in my chat session. I shared my screen just to make sure. Okay, I don't see any. So with that being said, we're going to just go ahead and move forward on the agenda. So the first we have is reports, and the principal's report, which is going to be given by Ms. Killingsworth.
Hi.
So, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm speaking on behalf of Dr. Brown tonight. She wishes that she could be here, so she sends her well wishes. So you all had a chance to read over my and Dr. Brown's report, and I just wanted to bring a couple things to life on it. So first and foremost, we've had a great launch to school. It is awesome to see the kids in the building. They are so happy. They are playing together at recess. They are socializing. They're connecting with their teachers and peers. So it's just been a really smooth transition to the start of the year. We also want to acknowledge that the students are doing a fantastic job with all the new expectations, especially regarding COVID. So keeping their mask on, socially distancing. We're just so impressed with the way that students across the entire building are handling that. They're really doing a nice job. So that's really great to see, especially with being out of the building for 6 months. So it's a really big transition. So it's really wonderful to see how well adjusted they all are, and really taking it bestride. We wanted to acknowledge to the families for helping prepare their kids to come back to the school. I think that's a big part of it. So we're really thankful to all of our Pine Hill families for just setting those kids up for success so that they can have a smooth transition. some of our students aren't able to return, teachers as well, so they're part of the remote schoolhouse. And I've been fortunate to kind of pop in on those remote classes and sessions. And although those kids can't be in person, their learning has also taken off really well this year, and they are happy and connecting. And I think the practices that are happening through virtual learning are really exciting. So that's been great to see as well. So a couple exciting statistics, lots of new things for Pine Hill. We had 57 new families, 57 new kindergarten students, 30 new families across grades 1 through 5, and 18 new faculty members, which is pretty big deal. We have several new classroom teachers who are launching their careers at Pine Hill, and they are just doing a remarkable job. Really excited to start off their time at Pine Hill, and I think they're really strong pedagogically, and I really have a passion for teaching and learning, which is showing, and so that's really exciting to see. Our new teachers are being mentored by the fabulous literacy coach, Jen Ryan, so they have really great mentorship and support as they kind of embark on their new roles. So it's just been exciting to see that energy in the building throughout the 10 days prior to school beginning, and then since students have started. So with that being said, I think the 10 days prior to school was really, really powerful for all of our educators. And that time was really maximized with all of our teachers using it for collaboration. Thank you to Assistant Superintendent McCoy for setting up such powerful opportunities for our teachers to engage in professional development. Really made a huge difference for our instructors to be able to have that time to digest and really apply new learning strategies, especially regarding virtual learning. As we all know, that's such a big part of this school year. So it's a really important 10 days and really busy 10 days, but really important. And I think it really helped with the transition. So just wanted to acknowledge that. This summer, we had a lot of more professional development opportunities, and we wanted just to highlight that 11 of our Pine Hill teachers attended virtually Teachers College, which was part of Columbia University, which is a school in New York that is huge for reading and writing and kind of the mecca for that. So it's really exciting that we had 11 teachers attend, and that most all of our teachers now are using reading and writing workshop by Lucy Calkins with Fidelity. So that's pretty exciting shift for our school, and we're really seeing those practices in place, and the outcomes for students are huge. So really exciting stuff there. Lastly, we just wanted to acknowledge that all the different task force that happened over the summer, our teachers were a huge part of that, whether it be facilities or teaching and learning, but all those things, took a lot of time this summer, but teachers were really invested, which just added to the whole start and launch of the school. So we're really thankful for all the work across the whole board to ensure such a smooth start for school, and it really paid off, I think, for our students. So we're looking forward to continuing to fill our classrooms and continuing on a positive year. Thanks. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Let's say, is there any questions from anyone on the school committee? That being, Nancy.
A quick question, or a couple of questions regarding the children that select the all remote option. Can you just kind of explain how many kids are in it in Pine Hill? I know I saw the numbers initially. I didn't know if that had changed, how many children are in the remote option, and how is the curriculum, because are some of the grades meshed together? How are they following the same grade level curriculum if they were in 3rd grade or 2nd grade or 5th grade, etc.?
Yeah, so there's a kindergarten cohort. The kindergarten cohort at Pine Hill is very small. We only have 2 kindergarten students. So what we ended up doing for remote learning is we bridged across both schools for Pine Hill and Chickering to create cohorts that were large enough so that the students had a group to connect with rather than just 2 in isolation. So our kindergarten students are actually connected with a classroom teacher from their home school as well, because we thought it was really important for those students to have, launching their educational careers at Pine Hill, to have that connected to the bigger picture of the school and not just a tiny cohort. For 1st grade, I believe there's 19 students total across both schools. There's 8 students from Pine Hill. For grade 2, it's a grade 2-3 cohort. So that has 21 students total. And again, that's across both schools. And then there's a grade 4-5 cohort, which majority are 4th graders. And that is actually just a Pine Hill cohort. And I believe there are 13 students in that. And as far as curriculum goes, they're following the same curriculum as our in-person or hybrid teachers are doing, and they're working with those teachers as well to collaborate to ensure that they're all kind of provided with the same curriculum opportunities.
Okay, and for 5th grade?
5th grade, we just have 2 5th graders, so they're part of the 4th grade cohort, and then they're getting specialized instruction for their specific needs based on where they are as learners.
Okay.
Wonderful. It sounds like a lot of work went into this, so I really appreciate the enthusiasm and all the hard work of the Pine Hill teachers and administrators and, you know, everyone getting it together. I mean, from your facilities, it all, you know, it's just really been a, you know, a team effort, and we appreciate it. I know it's been a strange year, but I keep hoping sooner rather than later we'll get back to a semblance of normal. But thank you, Allison. Next, we have Ms. McCoy. She'll do the Assistant Superintendent update.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
here we are. So I was going to share with you the slides that I used for the faculty at the opening to kind of talk about our teaching learning goals. So if it's okay with you, I'll share my screen, and I'm going to be brief and just focus on a few of the slides, and I'm happy to share the rest of them with you at another time. Okay, so can you see those? Does everybody see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so this is how we launched the 10 days of preparation with the teachers. And again, as Allison alluded to, the objective of those 10 days was to provide training, tools, and time for the faculty to be prepared for launching the school year. Many of the training and tools were provided over the summer. So as Allison said, this was a time for teachers to process and apply what they had learned. This is how we all felt in the spring with so much information coming at us. And so it was a matter of organizing it and coming up with some structures that would work this year. So after 61 days of remote learning in the spring, several workshop days and professional development opportunities, as well as the 56 members of our teaching and learning subcommittee of the task force, we came up with goals for remote learning 4.0. I know this is a question that came up several times, which is how is remote learning 4.0 going to look different than how we left 3.0 in the spring? And so you see our priorities here around safety, social emotional wellness, and equity, supporting all of our learners. Consistency, hopefully you'll see that through the use of our learning management systems, Seesaw and Google Classroom. Contact time, we wanted to make sure that students, both in school and at home, had several points of contact with their teachers throughout the day to add structure to kind of the 8-to-2 schedule. Focusing our curriculum to make sure that we're hitting the areas that are going to have the most leverage for students moving forward. We've done a lot of work around engaging activities that'll get students excited, even when they're learning online, and hopefully you're seeing that at home. The use of alternate assessments. How can we use project-based learning, creative ideas, so that we get away from the traditional assessments, which obviously are hard to do virtually. Lots of faculty collaboration, as Allison alluded to. We're trying to provide predictable communication. So you're hearing from your teachers, your principals, and central office kind of in a regular fashion without being overloaded is one of our goals. And then obviously taking care of ourselves and our students and our families so that we're not working 24/7 like we did in the spring. So these were the expectations that were set forth by the MOU group to support those goals. All of our teachers got this instructional planner. As you saw the fire hydrant in the spring, there was so much information coming at us and everybody was trying to share everything they could, and there was just too much to swallow. So with the support of our teaching and learning subcommittee, we took all of the information that had come our way and we organized it into this little booklet. So there might have been 1,000 resources to begin with, and now each of these areas has 4, 5, 6 that are really powerful and probably the best to use. So teachers kind of had a go-to place for this information. And thanks to our tech integrators at all 4 buildings, which they truly work together as a team throughout the spring and summer. And I'm just so proud of their growth as a unit. We surveyed the teachers in the spring to figure out which apps they thought were most useful and effective with kids. And here they are listed. And so the tech integrators created this slide deck where you can click on any of these apps and resources, and it gives you a quick overview of how to use it, what it can be used for, and provides some examples of how DS teachers have used this in their classroom. So this has really given teachers an opportunity to learn those engaging strategies. This is an overview of the 10 days. So you'll see week 1 is in blue, then we had 4 days after Labor Day in yellow, and then the Monday before the students arrived. What we tried to do is structure the morning around trainings and videos and faculty meetings, department meetings, grade level team meetings, so that there was a lot of meeting and collaboration and thinking in the morning. We had tech tutorials every day at lunchtime where teachers could click on them and watch videos about all of those top 20 apps. The nurses were available again at lunchtime for anybody who wanted to drop in and ask questions about protocols and safety. And then the afternoon we maintained for educator prep time. We thought it was important that teachers had time to just do the work, because we all know that we can sit in meetings for 8 hours and then we go home and say, I didn't get any work done. So we wanted to make sure teachers had time to actually apply what they were learning. And then our tech integrators offered tech help every day in the afternoon. And this is the goal, is that we all feel, unlike drinking from a fire hydrant, a little bit more structured and in control and joyful this year. And that's it. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Anyone have any questions? To me, oh, go ahead, Amanda.
Thank you, Beth. That was great. I just had a quick question about surveying. Do you plan to continue to survey families to see how this is all working as we get underway?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, what I did is, you saw those pencils, our goals for Remote Learning 2.0. What I did is started to go through and ask questions, research questions about each of those topics, and figure out how we're going to collect information, whether it's through surveys, whether it's through assessments, whether it's through benchmark information. So yes, you can definitely expect some surveys coming your way, as well as for the students and faculty.
Thank you.
Anyone else on school committee? Does anybody else have a question? Beth, that was a lot of work, and I feel the pain of the fire hydrant. That's how I kind of feel like we all are, because we're all trying to put so much in to make sure that we don't miss anything. So I like the systematic approach, and I love how you organized before and all the Zooms and information that you gave. I think it gave teachers a creative way to disseminate their information. And like Dr. Keough had said before the meeting even started, we were just talking in general about education. I think this is going to impact us, for years to come, not in a bad way, but in a good way. I think it's given us more innovative points and different ways of learning, because education is not a one size fits all. And I think this pushed us into making it an expanded, way to learn. So thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
And your committee. That was awesome. Okay, next we're going to move to Dr. Keough for the superintendent's update.
Yes, thank you, Angie. Couldn't agree with you more about the benefits. It's hard to see the silver linings in the midst of this dark cloud that we're traveling through, but there are silver linings for sure. And I can just tell you, as a leader, it's really hard to get people to buy into new things. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the terms initiative overload, and this was initiative overload on steroids, but people managed it, and they broke up their time wisely, I think, over the course of the summer. And in the 10 days, Beth obviously provided that framework that Allison referred to. That was huge. But the amount of growth that's taken place, and not by teachers alone, by all of us, right? Parents, certainly the administrative team, we've learned a lot through this process. I happen to believe that it's during crises that we grow the most. And so all is not lost. It is not ideal. There's no question about that. And, for me, it's always sad to see the kids with the masks on, because I want to see their faces. And I never realized how much I rely on people's facial expressions, and it's hard to see whether or not the person is engaged. And I think that's just another one of the challenges that's coming through all of this. But I agree with Allison that I was over at Pine Hill on the first day, actually popped into Marlene Custodio's class. I know she's out there somewhere. And, it was amazing. It was the first day and the kids were like back in the saddle and ready to go. Isn't that true, Marlene? Yes, they were engaged. It was, and you can tell they're excited. They just want to be back in school. So we're seeing that across the district. It's a beautiful thing. Another very nice thing that's come out of this is the collaborative spirit between Pine Hill and Chickering. And I can just tell you as an old timer, that has not always existed, which to me never made sense. All of our kids end up at the region together, and the more we can sync up with each other, the better. And that's been a really, really positive thing. Again, Beth's had a huge hand in that, but Allison and Barbara too, and obviously Deb Reineman and Jim Carnes in Dover. So the remote learning being done cooperatively is a good thing. I think it would be disingenuous to say that it's been flawless, though. I mean, we've heard about the challenges. We know there are challenges. I can see how hard it's been for the teachers. I think they were genuinely anxious before school started, especially at the secondary level. And I know we're just talking about elementary here, but at the secondary level where they'll have kids remote in while they're teaching, that's a big ask of teachers. And our teachers across the board have really been super cooperative. And so I want to thank them for that. I also want to be sure to mention that it's really noticeable when you go in the buildings. Maybe our parents don't get the chance to go in as often. When you go in now, it feels very different because the school's not full. I mean, it feels like a third of the building is present. It's really a half, but it's so spread out. So it is what we thought, that there would be room for people to spread out if necessary. I don't think that people have had to do that. I really don't know if they have or not. Beth, you might know better than I do. I think thus far, though, most people are staying in their rooms, it seems to me. Maybe you or Marlene could comment. Do you know about that, Marlene? Have people been staying in their classrooms, or are they spreading out?
You'd think I know how to work this by now after so many days at home. Well, I'm one of those that stay in my room. So
Okay.
I don't feel like there's a lot of traffic in the hallway. I think people just go where they have to go. And I think a lot of the teachers are trying to make an extra effort of using outside space. And so if you can exit and enter your classroom or other areas of the building from other doorways, I think people are doing that too. But, to each their own, and whatever their comfort level is and wherever their destination is.
Well, that's been I think one of the things that, I don't know, it makes me feel more comfortable knowing that we're not all jammed in there. In fact, when I visited Marlene's classroom, I noticed that she has a door right out to the bus loop, which is fantastic. So they've got, not only do they have great ventilation, but they can get out quickly. So, remember, we're concerned about lining up. We don't want a lot of lining up. So any way we can ease that, we're trying to do that. So Marlene's door with a nice screen on it is fantastic. It's been that was a good example of some of the positive stuff that's just kind of working itself out. The other thing that's been a positive is that this has allowed us as a system to adapt to our new start times in a more modest approach without it being all in. It's a couple of days in, easing into this. So I think that actually has been a very positive side benefit. And then finally, I wanted to just reiterate what Allison said about the new staff. We have wonderful new folks on board, really, really good people. I give Barb and Allison a lot of credit because they truly like to build from within. That doesn't work everywhere, and it won't work every time. But if we have someone who is a talented and capable teaching assistant who has the credentials to teach, we're going to take a good hard look at that person because they know the culture of the school. And one of the best things about Pine Hill School is, in fact, its culture. There's a really, really positive vibe, and people are attracted to it. They come to work here, and so the people that we've hired, we're very proud of and happy about that. I did want to let you know that we are still obviously working out the kinks on transportation. But just to put it in perspective, I was discussing this with Dawn and Trish Schmidt, who is really been our point person for the system with Dawn. They have done 156 bus routes. So if you think about that, that is a ton of work. You're trying to figure out how many kids at each stop, where are people going to go to pick up their bus. We've had a lot of mind changing. Not surprisingly, right? People have said, yeah, I was going to do hybrid, but I can't do it. I'm going to go remote. Or people have said, I'd like to give the remote a try. The hybrid a try. And that's a pain for us. So we've tried to say no, but we were very flexible, but in allowing people to adjust, we're really not doing that anymore. We need to stabilize these routes, but that's resulted in our having to kind of work out the kinks with transportation. I would still say we're doing quite well, considering, again, maybe a side benefit of having only half the school in at a time. We know we have challenges with drop-offs and pickups. We're noticing that at the region as well and at Chickering. And that's primarily because so many people want to drive their kids. There's not much we can do about that. So it requires patience. We've gotten some help from the police. We're trying to be creative in how we arrange our pickups and drop-offs. And so far, so good. And then finally, I wanted to mention the HVAC, because this is an important piece that I've been bringing you up to speed on at the joint meetings. But our HVAC system is being independently reviewed. And has been, actually, they're done. So we are expecting a report by the end of the month. And we're feeling, I would say, optimistic that we're going to be fine at Pine Hill. We're going to be fine actually across the district. We will more than likely hear of recommendations for enhancement, but we don't think that our system is flawed. Would you agree, Dawn? Is there anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, that's the basic, the quick and dirty feedback that I've received, and we'll have a more detailed report to share with the committee at your October meeting from the engineering firm.
But all things considered, that's an old school, and all things considered, it's in good shape. So that is a credit to the people who've been on this school committee years and years and years before all of you, and certainly administrators before all of us, who worked hard to keep that building up, and it's in very good shape. It doesn't meet all of our needs because the spaces and the way we deliver education has changed, but it's a credit to the community. So that's really my report. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Anybody? Any questions? From the school committee? No? Okay. Well, Dr. Keough, thank you. I echo the fact that I think Pine Hill is a very special place, and I do think that everything that they've done has made it that way. And I wanted to thank Central Office, because I know this summer was very challenging trying to make sure we had everything lined up so that we could get started. So thank you to our Central Office, to Dawn and Elizabeth, and you, Dr. Keough, because it's been a lot of work for everybody. And I have to say that when my son moved up to the middle school this year, I think I was sadder at the Pine Hill move-up ceremony than I was at my daughter's senior graduation. And she even said that. She goes, "You're crying more at Pine Hill." But that's because I do. I think it's such a special place. It's very unique, and you can't replicate that. It's wonderful.
Well,
so
and,
moving on.
Angie, by the way, we have been blessed with really good people that made it possible for us to do this. It has not gone this well across the state. We had great team members, and it was a joint effort. And I don't want to leave off that list Jill Fedor and Matt Vitale, also Sherborn resident. Jill, obviously our nurse and lead nurse for the district. Matt as a physician at Brigham and Women's, and just such an asset to all of us. I don't think we could have done all this work without these people, Dawn, Beth, and everyone. It really has been a group effort. And so, you know, hopefully we always tackle things that way forevermore, because it's so much easier than trying to go it alone and have all the answers. So
I do
I
have
want
to
to thank
say,
everyone for that.
Matt did explain things at a very basic level to me when I would call, and he's very busy and would spend a large amount of time on the phone with me when I would be asking these questions. And then I would send Jill these emails and she would email me back almost immediately. So they have really been understanding, especially because I'm just a layman and I'm just trying to convey concerns that I had from parents and what were the answers and what's the information we could give them. So they've been wonderful. I agree.
Special people.
Yes. So as for the warrant report, which is contained in your packet as well, these are all the warrants that have been signed by me. I'm still going into town hall at different and odd times when I get called to come sign. So if you want to look at what they are, and if you ever want to review them just in detail to see what we're having to pay for, you know, the general bills, you can just, I guess at this point, you'd have to call town hall to make an appointment. So with that said, Dawn, was there anything significant in the warrant report that you wanted to bring out?
No, it was just lengthy because you have the finishing touches of fiscal year 20 and then what we've done to date for fiscal year 21. So it was a 2-pager today.
It was a long one because I was like, have I signed that many? And I know I have to go back in this week and sign some more.
Correct.
Okay. That's what we do.
Yep. We didn't stop paying the bills.
No, they still want the bills paid.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the budget closeout, which is our next item on the agenda for the fiscal year 20 budget closeout. Was there anything, and then you can move on to the fiscal year 21 budget and capital update.
Sure. So it was somewhat refreshing to go back to having to prepare some financials after spending all summer dealing with PPE and everything else that we dealt with. So I'm happy to say that we ended actually just a little bit more positive than we reported to you in June. At your last meeting on June 4th, we saw more utility savings once we closed out the June bill. Obviously, with the buildings not being used, you know, we actually saw some substantial electricity savings. And also, when we closed out all the out of district, we picked up an additional $10,000 on the positive side. So you're returning back to the town from your fiscal year 20 approved budget at almost a little bit over $74,000. So that's the surplus that we ran, which is actually just about 1% of your budget, which just shows we continue to run really tight budgets at Sherborn, but we always seem to squeak by each year. So I'm happy to say that was the case for fiscal year 20. Also for your review are your special revenue and revolving funds, and just a couple of highlights on that I just want to refresh the committee's memory of. So in your building rental fund, if you remember when the town was moving their annual town meeting to outside of the end of the school year, we took 2 of your capital projects and funded one through your operating fund, which is the heating isolation valves, and the second one was the classroom cabinets and sinks. That is being paid for out of your building rental fund. That work was just completed, so $20,000 of your balance of $79,000 actually has been spent and will be reflected in your September 30th. The other thing I want to point out, if you remember in your May meeting, we recommended an additional 4th grade teacher, and that funding source is coming from the non-resident tuition fund. So just to refresh your memory as we move into fiscal year 21 about some of the non-operating funds that we're using for this year. Any questions on last year?
Not for me. I mean, I'm just glad that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, definitely. So on fiscal year 21, you'll get your first set of financials at your October meeting. We're just now, getting everyone up on payroll and sort of seeing where we are. If you recall, I've mentioned at one of the joint meetings about some of the reopening grant funds that Sherborn specifically has received. And so we have the reopening CARES related fund that was based on your per pupil count in Sherborn. So you had $225 per pupil, which came to about $90,000. We're using that for the additional technology that needed to be implemented for the staff to have the new laptops, and for us to be able to provide iPads for K through 2. We're using it for additional PPE, facilities, items such as the plexiglass that we put into some of the offices, and also the tents that we've rented. And then we're also used a chunk of it too for the additional professional development that our teachers did, because that was all related to, obviously, the hybrid remote model. So these funds are available for anything that you had not budgeted for, but that expenses that you were incurring because of the COVID-19 circumstances. So that is what those funds are for, and we're quickly sort of depleting those. But our fallback, and I'd mentioned this too, is that all the towns also received some CARES funding that if we need to, we're hoping that we can tap into. All the towns, from what I've heard, have received more funds than they probably can fully expend themselves. So schools are looking to piggyback on those. So when if we come up with some enhancements from the HVAC review, or any other hiccups that may come along the way, we do know we have another avenue for funding. So I want everyone to feel comfortable that we're going to be able to cover what we need to for the school year. You saw a list of a lot of new teachers. I don't want you to get nervous that we've hired more than we had budgeted. As you know, you picked up the additional 4th grade teacher anyway. A couple of the staff that are listed are long-term subs that we've had to hire for the remote learning. And with some of the post-budget staffing changes that we've had, with some retirements and some other staff departures, we actually have funds in your operating fund to be able to cover those positions. And then those positions, if we move out of this scenario for next fall, we won't need, because hopefully we'll have everyone back in the schools. So from a financial standpoint, we're looking fairly good at this point as we march on into the 3rd week of school next week.
So looking forward with the FY21 budget, it seems like the CARES Act has just really helped to plug in those holes. So that's good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions? No. I think we were lucky as far as some of the long-term subs. I've heard some other districts have not been as fortunate to get enough teachers and subs, et cetera. So that was good. I signed up to be a sub, but I haven't been called yet.
All right, Angie. That's
FYI.
awesome.
There you go.
You watch what you wish for.
I know.
I will call you next week.
So the next item on the agenda, if nobody has any other questions for Dawn, is the Remote Learning Enrichment Center. Dr. Keough, do you want to explain any of it?
I would like to, if I could.
Yes.
I honestly admit I'm getting old, and maybe that's why it's time to retire, because I can't remember how much I told all of you about this, but I believe I mentioned at a remote meeting, at a joint meeting, that the governor was encouraging school systems to allow teachers within their communities to keep their kids in school on the remote days, if at all possible. And we took that quite seriously, because we care about our educators in the community, whether they work for our system or not. We believed that we weren't talking about hiring teachers to teach these kids on their remote days. What we were really talking about is someone to supervise the children the same way a parent does when they're remote. And that would allow those children's parents to teach. Now, in some cases, they were, in fact, Dover or Sherborn teachers, and in some cases not, but definitely all residents. And so we created what we're calling the Remote Learning Enrichment Center. And Kate McCarthy has just been a saint in this regard, making this happen, pulling this all together, making sure that we are in touch with the families. And we knew, we built up the groups accordingly and made sure that we would have appropriate coverage for these kids, because there are some younger kids and some older kids. We are predominantly managing this at the elementary level. I think we have maybe a 6th grader who's able to latch in with another group somehow. Do you remember that, Beth? Do you know what I'm talking about?
With the 4-day, some of the 4-day groups of students.
That's what it is, exactly, with the 4-day group, exactly. So we've been lucky in that way, but this has not come at extreme cost to the system. It's actually worked out in some ways because we are employing our Sheeta Dita folks during the day, the days that they're not, that the kids will be in, that their teachers would not be in, and that allows us to keep people employed and at a very reasonable rate. It's not a typical teacher pay or anything like that. So we feel like it's been a win-win, and I wanted to let you know about it because after I went through this whole process, I realized we were supposed to get it approved by the school committee. So I apologize for that. I feel like I kind of got to the finish line and then didn't step over it with the joint meeting and should have had a vote. That's why I added it to this, and I'm hopeful that you guys will support this remote learning enrichment center. Dawn could tell you the exact amount in cost, but it's negligible if I remember correctly, Dawn.
Right. So the way we were able to coordinate it is that it's 2 days. We coordinated the kids so they were all on the same cohort rotation. So it's Monday, Tuesday at both schools, and we did take one of our DITA and Sheeta employees who would have been short hours because of the reduced use of DITA Sheeta. So it was actually a great way for us to keep our employees sort of as whole as we can. And so we just have one in each school, and we'll probably, while we still have funding available, that will be an expense towards each of the schools' reopening grants. The fact that we have one at each school is nice. So that is working out well. We were, like I said, very fortunate to be able to find people who were DITA Sheeta who had daytime availability, because not all of them do. And it fit in nicely with their schedule. So I think so far so good in being able to accommodate our residents.
And in typical Pine Hill fashion, I visited the room the other day, and the kids are just so excited to be together. I think there's 10 of them. They've nicknamed themselves the Jelly Beans, and they're each a different flavor. And the big kids are taking care of the little kids. They're becoming quite a family. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's about the same number at both schools.
It is. It's 9 kids, I believe, at Pine Hill and 10 at Chickering. And yes, and just to put it in perspective, just remember how hard it was if you've had to manage childcare, how hard it is to do that. And you care more about your kids than any other thing. And these people who contacted and reached out to us were really desperate. And I'm so glad that we were able to do it. I just think it was a good thing to do. And kudos to the superintendent from Hopkinton. It was her idea originally, and the commissioner got on board with it.
That's fantastic. So I guess what we need then is a motion, and we need to vote on this to make it official, correct?
Correct.
So do I have a motion to approve a remote learning enrichment center for this FY21 year in our budget?
Nancy Cordell.
Go ahead. So Nancy Cordell moved. Do I have a second?
Megan Page, second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, if you'll take yourself off mute, we'll poll for voting. Amanda?
Amanda Brown, I think I need to abstain.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, but we have still enough for a quorum. That's good. So Megan?
Megan Page, yes.
Nancy?
Nancy Cordell, yes.
And Angie Johnson, yes. And Mike Fitzgerald is not on the meeting, just for note-taking purposes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So next, we have in your packet is a consent agenda for the approval of the minutes for June the 24th, 2020. I went through it. I did not see anything that I didn't remember. I was going to try to go back and watch it again, but I swear this feels like dog years. June 24th seems like 7 years ago. I know it wasn't, but it just seems to last forever. So did anyone else see anything that needed to be amended or corrected in the minutes? Okay, so if that's the case, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 24th, 2020?
So moved, Megan Page.
Do I have a second?
Second, Amanda Brown.
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, just take yourself off mute and we'll poll for voting. Nancy?
Nancy Cordell, yes.
Megan?
Megan Page, yes.
Amanda?
Amanda Brown, yes.
And Angie Johnson, yes. And again, Mike Fitzgerald is not in the meeting today. And then also contained in your packet, just for some light reading, are the 2020 and 21 meeting calendar. So you might want to put that in there. Of course, everything's always subject to change in the age of COVID, but this was what we're going to try to stick to. And also your subcommittee assignments. I did put forth a communication that we all just kind of stayed the same because our committee really hadn't changed. And the subcommittees last year, from March on, everything kind of went to one committee, which was COVID committee and reopening and, policy stuff. And I think in the age we are now, it's probably going to pretty much stick to that as well, just because we're quickly transitioning as we go. So if you don't like a committee assignment, or if you'd like to be reassigned somewhere, just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to accommodate. There's enough of us and I think we can work it out. So that's that. So there are also in there the items for the October 13th meeting that we're looking forward to. If you have anything that you'd like added or anything that you see that we need to change, if you'll email me that as well. Is there anything else, Dawn, that we need to look forward to for the October meeting? That'll be budget. We'll start to come together.
Right, and so that's a joint meeting too, evening. So we'll have to figure out the timing on that, but we should also have your engineering report that night with the first glimpse of fiscal year 21 operations.
And if I could add, Angie, don't forget that when we originally planned for our hybrid opening, we talked about revisiting the question of whether or not we could bring any students back in on a more expanded basis. And I just want to let the members know that our Health and Hygiene Committee members are looking into kind of what thresholds would need to be met in order for that to happen. So there'll be more to come on that as well.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, I saw where there was that indication by the commissioner for those that were in green who had gone to no in-person learning. They were asked to revisit that. I read that this morning. I always like to get up in the morning and see what's changed in, the 7 hours I was asleep.
Who's on the hot seat today?
Yeah, I know. I always open the paper and kind of shut my eyes a little bit, but there you go. So if that is it, does anyone have any other items that needed to be addressed or anything that we did not address? Okay, so hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Megan Page.
All right, in a second.
Nancy Cordell, second.
I don't think there's going to be any discussion. So Amanda?
Amanda Brown, yes.
Megan?
Megan Page, yes.
Nancy?
Nancy Cordell, yes.
And Angie Johnson, yes. Well, thank you all very much. And like I said, if there's anything, feel free to email me and I will make sure we get something addressed.
Great. Thank you, everyone.